Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel and welcome back to another live stream, the very first live stream of 2026. And once again, this stream is a tactical preview because this weekend, Manchester United face Leeds, a big old fierce rivalry to kick off the new year. And again, we've said it so many times, it's an opportunity for United to get some points on the board. It's an opportunity to try and climb up the table. Now, unfortunately, so far this season, every time we've had one of these opportunities, particularly in the past 2 months, we've messed it up. We failed to capitalise on teams around us and failed to get 3 points. Hopefully, this one can be different. And I mean, it really is a great opportunity. If we look at the results from... If we look at the results from the game week just gone, of course, United drew with Wolves. Every team in the league drew. Every match was a draw, apart from Newcastle beating Burnley and Arsenal beating Aston Villa. So, no one basically had a good game week. No one had a good game week. Now, that makes the Wolves result even more frustrating, because had we won, we would have gained 2 points on pretty much every team in the league. But it also means that we almost didn't take as much of a hit as what we could have done in another game week. This weekend, as always, there are games that line up that make you think teams around us will drop points. I don't think Forest is an easy game for Villa. Bournemouth isn't easy for Arsenal. And also we've got Liverpool against Fulham, potentially a tricky one. Newcastle Palace. We've got Spurs Sunderland and City Chelsea. There's some good games this weekend. And on paper, you would look at that and go, United have got, a pretty good one. It's not a bad one. Of course, being a rivalry is always going to make the game much more difficult. Being away from home is going to make the game difficult. And being Manchester United is going to make the game difficult. But if we can find a way to win, then once again, there is every chance that we could leapfrog Chelsea this weekend. Of course, Chelsea have just lost their manager, Enzo Maresca. They play City this weekend. They're a bit of a wounded animal right now. So if United could get 3 points here, then we've got every chance again this weekend of climbing into the top 4. But I think it's a tricky one. This Leeds side is very difficult to play against. They're very difficult to beat, and they're on a bit of a good run themselves. 5 games unbeaten, and sort of just finding a way of efficiently getting points on the board, which is exactly what a team like Leeds need to do. They played against Liverpool last night. I watched the game, and I thought Leeds looked pretty decent. I think particularly in the first 20 minutes, they looked like they could really hurt Liverpool. As the game went on, Liverpool did find ways to open them up a little bit, but overall, Leeds were still very solid defensively. They rested Calvert-Lewin last night. But for me, the big factor that we have to consider in this game is the fact that Leeds played last night. We played on the 30th. So we've got 48 hours of extra rest heading into this game. And that could be big for United. Now, Leeds are potentially without a few players. Ampadu got suspended last night. Rodon got injured at the weekend. And Bornau, the defender, got injured with a knock last night. Now, perhaps he'll return. But Leeds are themselves missing a few players. Of course, United are as well. Which is why I need the help of you guys this morning in the chat, to helping me to create a Manchester United starting 11, a Manchester United idea to try and win this football match. That is the plan for today's stream. Before we do any of that, get yourselves down in the chat and let me know how you're doing. Did you have a good new year? What did you think of the Wolves game? How do you feel about United in 2026? All of that stuff, let me know in the chat. Good morning, Mr. Dudley. I hope you're well, my friend. What do you think about a potential Mateta signing? I think it's good for Sesko. I was a fan of it in the summer. He was a player that I sort of put forward as an option for United to go and sign. I don't know how much he would cost. I think that would be a bit of a sticking point. I also think in January it would be quite a difficult move to do. Taking, Palace's striker in the middle of the season is quite tough. But yeah, I think he would be a good option for United. He hasn't had the most amazing season so far. He's missed quite a lot of chances, but he's still a very good player. And like I said, it would probably help Sesko, right? It would help look after him a little bit. Hello, AJ. This game is going to be tricky. Kevin, I agree. I very much agree. I think it's a difficult one. Leeds looked very solid last night. Very solid. Can we defeat Leeds by using the same formation and players we used against Newcastle in the first half? Well, that is exactly the conversation that I want to have today. How should United set up? And then we've got Steve with the 14-month membership. Steve, thank you very much, my friend, and Happy New Year to you. This is an easy W. Do we call that optimism or delusion? I'm not sure, but either way, I can get behind it. Any news for some of our players coming back? I felt our team will be poor. Now, I haven't seen any news yet, so I'm going to assume, which might be a horrendous idea. I assume Harry Maguire is still out. I assume De Ligt is still out. I assume Bruno Fernandes is still out. We know we have several players at AFCON. I think the one who might come back is Mason Mount, because he was sort of touch and go for the last game. So I would imagine he is very much in contention to be part of this squad again. And then, I don't know, I assume Cobby's getting close. Maybe he's someone who might be able to make the squad. I would be surprised if he came in and started, but he is one that we might be able to use. So, generally speaking, yeah, it's going to be a reduced squad once again. So again, we have to try and be a little bit clever with how we're going to set up. Now that starts with playing a solid goalkeeper. Lomon's in net. Everything in front of that is open to conversation in terms of who plays where, what formation we play, what system we use, how we look on the ball, how we look off the ball. There's a lot that we need to discuss today. And I think what I want to do is, the first thing I want to do, and this might sound a little bit weird, is create an 11 for United in this game that you would like to see out of possession. Out of possession. Now, that might sound weird, but I think it's really important. So often we talk about formation, and that's fine. Is it a back three? Is it a back four? Whatever. But what we tend to see from United is no matter what system we line up with, on the ball, we tend to find ourselves in settled possession with some sort of back three. When we play 3-4-3, obviously that's naturally the back three. When we play a back four, it might be a full back drop and deeper or something like that. So I don't think anything ever changes. Out of possession, though, I think the two ideas are quite different. We have the back five, which can be incredibly passive with that extra defender on the last line, or we can go with the back four. So what I want to do today is try and talk about United playing off the ball. How would you like to see United shaping up out of possession, and then we can figure it out from there. Looking back at the Wolves game, it wasn't a bad result in the context of results elsewhere. We need to call out recruitment, though, because we are lacking squad-wise. Yeah, that's what I sort of said in my intro a little bit. We sort of got lucky because only 2 teams won in this game week. So the damage wasn't as bad as what it could have been. It also feels a little bit like a missed opportunity. And I agree on the recruitment front as well. Respect a comment about a load of bollocks. Fair play. If Mainu isn't back, it's a mock injury. I don't like to speculate too much. Let's assume he's injured, but who knows? Who knows? Out of possession, I want to see a 4-4-2. Dalot and Dorgu on the right, Shaw and Cunha on the left. Steve, I like that as a starting point. Let me see if I can find my players. Shaw on the left with... Where is he? Where is he? Where is he? This... See, I'm looking at the players on the side here, and the squad still looks fairly big. Anyway, Shaw and Cunha on the left, you say. You then say Dorgu and Dalot on the right, out of possession. Now that to me sort of suggests you are looking at a back four off the ball, which I certainly do not mind. I do not mind this at all. Now my fear as we look to this game is look at the shape of Leeds. Look at the shape of Leeds. In the past, when we have played a team with a back three, Wolves last time out, Amorim made a comment about, Wolves are going to attack with 5, so we probably need 5 on our last line, which is why we sort of changed to the back 3. Now, that terrifies me, that our manager can't think of a way to coach against a front 5 other than using 5 defenders himself, but hey-ho. Is there a fear we might see something similar in this game? Possibly. Although, in theory, Leeds, as they push their wing-backs up, are technically a front 4, so maybe we can get away with the back 4 in this game. Of course we can, but I'm trying to think like Amorim. Maybe we can get away with it. Let me know what you think. Every time we need to capitalise on other teams dropping points, we fail to. Yeah, and I'm a little bit scared of that again this week. If you look at the fixtures, I think there's teams around us that will drop points. Spurs, Sunderland, City, Chelsea, Newcastle, Palace. Liverpool, Fulham isn't an easy game for Liverpool, particularly with their inconsistent form. Bournemouth could drop points, although granted they're much lower down the table. Villa Forest, I don't think is the easiest game in the world. Let's say Chelsea lose to City. All we have to do is beat Leeds and we'll be in the top 5. Could Liverpool... Who Liverpool got? Who did I just say Liverpool got? Could Liverpool lose to Fulham? If Liverpool and Chelsea lose, we win. We're in the top 4. We're in the top 4. So, yeah. Hey, if you watch the Leeds versus Liverpool game, if they fail to break down Leeds, how can we? I mean, that's a great question. And I felt last night that for Liverpool, what the big problem was they had a lack of 1 versus 1 ability. They had a lack of ability to sort of isolate a Leeds defender, drag them out into a position, isolate them and beat them. They failed to do that. The concern is that United potentially have a similar problem. without Ahmad, without Mbumo, we lack that 1 versus 1 quality. We've got Cunha, who can bring carrying, but not so much dribbling. It's why I would have a half eye on Shea Lacey for his raw dribbling ability. That is something that I would consider. The other thing, though, that I feel it's a different game. I feel it's a different game because Leeds are at home. And the reason I say that is just think about Wolves. Think about Wolves. We went away from home to Wolves, and Wolves played... Doggo barking. Wolves played super high up the pitch. They had loads of men forward because they were at home. They almost felt like they had to have some attacking impetus in the game and be on the front foot. And that left loads of gaps in behind. Whereas when they came to Old Trafford, they were much more defensive, much more players behind the ball, and much more difficult to break down. So there's a chance Leeds, being the home team in a big rivalry, a big fierce game, Leeds being the home team might come out and try and play, and might try and get on the front foot where possible and take the game to United. And, that means at times we're going to have to weather that storm a little bit. But also it does mean that there might be spaces left in behind. I'm not sure that this one is an exercise in breaking down a low block. I don't think it'll be that. I think it'll be much more about battling, about dueling, about 50-50s, about transitions and things like that. Particularly under Amorim. I think that's how the game might go. He seems to have shushed. Ruben is nervous because he has lost all of his best players and the squad depth is non-existent. Yeah, I think that's absolutely a fair point. The squad is rough right now. We saw that bench the other night. So many young players who just, sure have a lot of potential, but they're not sort of the real deal yet. They're not the ready-made product. I think the counterpoint I would make is Ruben's sort of nervous football. We also saw it against West Ham, against Everton, when we had a full squad and played against 10 men. So it's Amorim and it's the squad. It's both. It's definitely both. And this was something that we mentioned the other day, right? There seems to be an inability at times to accept that two things can be right or two things can be wrong. I think everyone wants to blame the players or blame the manager or blame the Ineos, for example. I think we have to accept it can be all of them at fault. And I think it is the case right now. Lacey is a good dribbler, but I look at his frame and I don't trust him against grown men. I understand that concern. It's why I wouldn't necessarily throw him into a position where he's playing sort of inside the pitch, where there's lots of Leeds players who can sort of hustle and bustle. I'd leave him a little bit wider, where he can play in a bit more space, probably, would be my intention. I will never get over a Man United manager worrying about his defensive setup against the worst Premier League team in history. Yeah, it's why my biggest problem with Amorim has always been his mentality. I thought he would shift. He sort of said, when he was one of his last games in charge of Sporting, he played against City in the Champions League and played quite defensive, but got a result. And after the game, he went, we can't do that at United. United are too big a club to play in that way. And I sort of believed him too much. I sort of trusted his words. Because since being at United, yeah, his mindset is the thing that's concerned me the most. He's very cautious, very pragmatic. And that's led to a cautious United team on the pitch, which still can't defend, which is sort of where I am most critical, I would say. We lack creativity when Ahmad and Bruno don't play. Has Mainu got the capability in him to deliver what Bruno does? I think they're very different players. Mount is okay-ish. Cunha is still looking like Wolves quality. How do we score? That's a great question. How do we score? How do we score in this game? That's something that we've got to try and figure out. Hopefully, you guys can help me. So, let's get back to this. United off the ball. United off the ball. That's the first thing I want to focus on. Because for me, that's where we have to change. Against Wolves, it was too passive. It was too standoffish. 5 players on the back line against 3 Wolves players, which meant that we got outnumbered over here all day long. So we want to see United playing more on the front foot. Steve has suggested we could set up like this, with a back 4 out of possession, and then Dorgu and Cunha in the wide zones. So, what would that leave your core here as? Now, you might go for like a 4-5-1 here. You could go for a 4-4-2. What do we reckon? Who would you be looking at? Now, it feels like Sesko will play. I would say Sesko comes into the starting 11 because who else are we going to play? I don't see Xerxes starting after getting hooked at half-time the other day. I just don't imagine that he'll play this game, particularly with so many talks of him leaving the club. He's not playing very well at the moment. I would assume Sesko comes in. Or stays in, I should say. I'm just looking through the rest of it. And particularly if we're without players, if we're without Mount, I think we've got a problem. Because, yeah, Steve said there, the midfield is sort of the 2 adults we've got left, which is Casemiro and Ugarte. So does that almost mean, off the ball, we would like to see this setup? This doggo is going crazy, by the way. This doggo is going crazy. Let me quickly message my brother to see what's going on. Callum, you in the chat, actually? I think this is just we need to accept that we are not the Fergie Man United. Fair point. We are closer to Everton and Man City right now. Yeah, I think we have all accepted probably roughly 10 years ago that we're not the Fergie United. I think we all know that. Yeah, but the question is, what are we? What are we? That's where we feel at the moment, a little bit lost. David, thank you very much for the gifted membership. Good morning to you, my friend. I hope you're well. And Happy New Year, mate. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you all had a good one. Next door had delivery. Disgusting. Cunha looks like he complained about playing on the right wing. On the wrong wing, sorry. On the wing. Should we just try that again? Let's try that again. Cunha looks like he complained about playing on the wing. Maybe Cunha in the middle and Dorgu and a youngster on the wing. Sorry for my complete failure to read there. That's an interesting idea off the ball, I think, especially. It would allow Cunha to play that a little bit higher rather than doing defensive shifts over here. If he could play as part of a front two, I think it does help him. I think it helps his game a little bit. I just don't know sort of who it works with then here, apart from maybe Mantato. Where is he? Here he is. This would be an interesting idea, particularly if we don't have Mount. I don't mind this idea because it gets us a winger on the pitch, which I think is important. Off the ball, it keeps Cunha high rather than deep shifts over here. It keeps him higher. Defensively, in a way, you would think it should be somewhat secure because Dorgu is sort of a fullback playing in front of a fullback. Then on the left, we've got fullback. And Mantato can play fullback. When he plays for the England youth teams, he's often a left back. And then you've got Casemiro and Ugarte, two ball-winning midfielders. Like, in terms of personnel, it's almost quite a defensive team. But it gets quite a lot of our players into nice positions. Can you just swap Mount and Cunha off the ball? The fear always with doing that is the distance you've got to cover from... We're on the ball, I'm in this position, we lose the ball. How far have I got to get to my off-the-ball role? So that's my only concern with that. If we were to, play Mount on the left, Cunha up top with Sesko, off the ball, that's fine. When we get on the ball, though, who goes where? Because you would think Mount would want to come inside, and then he's almost clashing with Cunha a little bit in that zone. Maybe. Now, sure, overlapping would help that. But I don't know, this feels a little bit off balance now. Because Sesko's what go in the middle. It feels like Mount has come and clashed with Cunha. Unless this is, of course, more of an on-the-ball shape. But that would be something to consider. And I think you would trust Mount on that left side to do that defensive role. I think he can do that. I think he, is absolutely capable of doing that. And you'd go into that shape off the ball. That works quite nicely. I don't mind that. Can someone just ask Cunha to relax and pass the ball to a better place to play it instead of shooting wildly? Please, someone do that. Please, someone do that. I like Cunha. I think he's a great player. I think he's got so much more to offer, though. So much more to offer. I think at his age as well, we sort of give him the benefit of the doubt that he's at a new club. He's settling in. It's an unstable environment at the best of times. But he costs a lot of money, and he is in his prime age right now. This isn't a long-term signing. This isn't like a 5-year project with Cunha. We want instant, fairly instant. Same with Mbeumo as well. That's not a young player. That's someone in their prime who's met come in and hit the ground running. Cunha sort of has shown moments, I think, but I don't think he's shown consistent performances. Some of that, he needs to adapt still. He does need to settle in with the teammates around him, get to know their game. It's been disrupted this season. But also, I think he just needs to do better. He needs to do better. Not enough is made of the fact that we were without Bruno and Mbeumo, Ahmad, Mount, De Ligt, Kobe, etc. I don't think any other team could lose 90% of their best players and still be expected to play brilliantly. Completely agree. Completely agree. That sort of takes me back to the point that I made before the Wolves game. We did the live stream very similar to this one, and I made a point that, I think Wolves are a little bit better than we thought. They're going to be a half-decent side, more difficult to beat away from home. Or home at Old Trafford, you know what I'm saying. And I said it's going to be difficult for United to click and play brilliantly because having, 5, 6, 7 of your starters out of the team is going to make it difficult to click. Which is why, for me, what I said is I want the result, of course, always. It's United against Wolves. The result should be obvious. But the more important thing for me, rather than players clicking, rather than execution being amazing, was what's the idea? What's the idea? What's the intention? The actual play, the individual quality, the technical details might be lacking in a game like that. But I wanted to see the right idea. The right idea being that we faced the worst side in Premier League history and felt that we could press them. We might get that press wrong, absolutely, but we felt that we could press them, that we wanted to play on the front foot. On the ball, that we wanted to be a team that played out from the back. Again, we might get that wrong occasionally because of the different players, but we wanted to do it. We wanted to play through. We wanted to control the ball. We wanted to dominate. We wanted to attack Wolves. That was the idea. We could get it wrong because of players missing, but the idea had to be a positive one against the worst team in Premier League history. But the idea that we saw was a very deep one, a very defensive one, a very passive one, which to me is unforgivable in any circumstance. Like, there's no dressing it up. I don't hate Amorim as much as what a lot of people do. I'm not as big a fan either, but I don't hate him as much as some do. But the other night, there is absolutely no excuse that can be made. Sure, the performance may not be perfect because of people missing, but the idea, the way you want to play, the intention, the mindset, that should not change based on injuries. Not if you want to be United manager. It can if you want to be Crystal Palace manager, if you want to be Fulham manager, if you want to be Wolves manager, if you want to be West Ham manager, I don't care. Sure, you can do that. But not at a team that we want to be. Not a team that wants to play Champions League football. It doesn't happen. Doesn't happen. Yeah, but it was Wolves. Yeah, I wasn't asking for brilliant. I was asking for the right idea and to beat them. That's all I wanted. I believe Amorim has been tasked with dampening expectations so Ineos can buy the rest of the club cheaper. Honestly, I would say he's on track. He's doing a good job. Keep up the good work, Amorim. Spot on. Expectations at Man United are unrealistic and it is borderline toxic. Depends what the expectations are. It depends who you ask. It depends who you ask. Some will say, we've got to win the league. Of course, that's unrealistic. All I'm asking for is a team that can compete in the top 6, plays progressive, aggressive football. That's all I want in the short term. That's all I want in the short term. We're doing the top 6 part, sure. But we're not doing anything that's sustainable long term. And that's what scares me a little bit. Because what are we building to? What are we building to right now? I don't see it. I don't see it. That performance took me off Amorim's agenda payroll. I think it did for a lot of people. The other day I saw a poll on Twitter and it's the first time, granted Twitter, but it's the first time I've seen more people vote for Amorim out than Amorim in. And it's the first time I've seen that. So, yeah, people are losing a little bit of patience. If I were manager, I would put Martinez in DM, so when needed, we can make a 3 at the back. Now, that is something that I did want to mention today. Is there an opportunity to do that? Is there an opportunity to say, Ugarte is not the most amazing footballer in the world? I don't think he's been terrible recently, but he's not amazing. Could we put Lisandro Martinez into midfield for his tempo control? He is better at controlling the tempo. And go for Heaven and Yoro at the back. Now, it's not ideal in terms of experience, but, nothing's ideal right now. We're Manchester United. Is this something that we could do? I want to beat a side with less points than the triangle at home. Not win the Champions League. Exactly. I'm not asking for us to win the league, Champions League, FA Cup, Carabao Cup, and then the Club World Cup, and then, I don't know, the Brazilian tour in the summer or something. I'd just like to be the better team at home to Wolves, like every other team in the league this season has been. That's all I wanted. Corey, good morning to you, my friend. How are you? Haven't seen you in a long time. Hope you're good, mate. Hopefully next season we've worked enough that those are the easy 3 points. They are not right now. I just think 12 months in they should be. That's what I can't get past. We're not in a new project here. We're 12 months in. We're 12 months in. Somehow this felt worse than Grimsby. Right? I think what it is the Grimsby one almost feels like it's almost such a bad result that it's almost a freak incident that you can almost just go, what on earth was that? What on earth was that? That can't happen ever again. Whereas Wolves, I think it felt more of almost less of a shock. It felt more like this is sort of sort of where we're at. The Wolves one felt a bit more normal, which is what makes it worse, I think. We almost accepted it a bit more, which makes it worse. There's people making excuses for it, which makes it worse. Can you see progress, though? Yeah, I think we're better than the team that finished, 15th, 16th last year. I think we're better. But, I think literally 15 teams in the league last year were. I don't think progress was difficult. I don't think progress was remotely difficult. Amorim set the bar so low, or not Amorim, the players, the squad, whoever, set the bar so low last season that all you have to do to be better is to see progress is to be better than the worst United team in history. Like, of course, we were going to see progress. It was impossible not to. With who we signed, with the players we've got, progress was always going to be there in terms of the points tally, etc. It's that play style. I think we see games where we do it. I go back to that Brighton one when we did press high. We were aggressive in the way that we played, and we looked at a very dangerous team. Against Bournemouth, as leaky as we were defensively, I like the idea behind what we were trying to do. And then we take 500 steps backwards by then going to a style which I don't like, which has no long-term future at this football club. So that's what annoys me. That's what annoys me. Just to go back to the missing players point, though, we hammered Wolves only a few weeks ago with our best players available. I just think the drop-off in quality is underappreciated. Yeah, absolutely. We've lost some serious players at the moment. Bruno Fernandes, one of the best players in Premier League history. And Mbeumo, Ahmad, such good footballers. De Ligt, Maguire, our only experienced centre-backs. We have lost a lot. We have lost a lot. I also think it was a different type of game. Like I said, Wolves at home played more attacking, which gave us more space, which suits us. Wolves at Old Trafford were more defensive, and that doesn't suit the way that United play under Amorim. We want to play very quickly, very fast, and we can't do that at the moment. We'd have the players to do it. We'd have the players to do it. Grimsby felt like a freak incident, whereas the Wolves result was definitely in the realm of possibility and almost predictable. Yeah, like, it just almost felt like that's kind of what we do a little bit. It's almost not that shocking. Amorim has had 4 games versus Wolves and only won once. Guys, we're in the mud right now, right? Because I'm seeing Steve sort of fire a sly shot or two at Ruben Amorim. That's how you know we're in the mud. Let's get ourselves out of the mud. Let's win this football match. Let's find a way to do it. Off the ball. I like this shape. What was your comment earlier, Steve, about Shaw? I'm sure I saw you mention him. Good idea and solution, but he would probably go Shaw centre-back if Lisandro Martinez is in DM, and then move Dorgu back to left-back. Yeah, Yoro's out of favour right now, isn't he? Yoro is very much out of favour. I think the more likely team, if we were to line up like this off the ball, I think the more likely team is that. I think he'll go for those two in midfield to try and bring something that looks like security. So if that's how it's to work off the ball, I almost don't care about literally what shape we press in. Does Sesko apply pressure? Is it Cunha? Where did midfield go? I don't mind. The intent, again, is the most important thing. United have to play on the front foot in this game. The Leeds, sort of, the crowd, the atmosphere is going to be good. It's going to be a really, really good atmosphere. United have got to rise to that. We've got to be aggressive. Now, that doesn't have to be man-to-man pressing all the time. I think we always have this idea of let's play high, let's play high, let's press, and everyone thinks that has to be man-to-man. I don't think it does. Leaving Sandro Martinez man-to-man with Calvert-Lewin would feel risky. That would feel risky. Calvert-Lewin's a very good physical outlet. He is a nightmare to play against. He doesn't stop running. He doesn't stop jumping. He's a nuisance, and in goal-scoring form right now. To be fair to Heaven, he did recently sort of lock down Ollie Watkins a little bit. So maybe if it was that way around, you'd feel a bit more confident. But, a high press doesn't have to be man-to-man. It just has to be United on the front foot in this game. I don't think we can let Leeds come and sort of force us back into our shape over here. I think United have got to try and get on the front foot. And I think we've got the players to do that. I think there's some nice energy across that 4 there. Mount, Dorgu and Ugarte in particular. Maybe with Casemiro just sort of backing them up. Maybe that's something that we could do. Cunha being higher, I think, is nicer defensively as well. The sort of area that gets him into. I don't mind that at all. But are we forced to do that? No, you know what? I like the idea that we came to earlier. So, maybe if we are to quickly touch on shape, in the high pressing moment, it would probably go like that, I would assume. It would go something like that, I would think, and we would try and sort of lock one side, and once we'd done that, maybe that fullback would connect, and then if we lock this side, that fullback connects, and that's the way that United press, sure. The point is more that when we then go into the mid-block, we still have numbers across the middle. By getting these two wide midfielders, we support Casemiro and Ugarte more. When we play with a back five, and they drop like this, and it's a 5-2-3, there's not enough support for our two midfielders. I've got countless, I ain't got the notes with me right now, but I've got countless notes from the first half against Wolves where there was so much space in front of our wing back. Like, I just don't think the back five works. The way that we do it just does not work for us. I think if we go to the back four, off the ball, it allows us to get that extra player wide of the midfielder and in front of the fullback. And I think that's something that we have to do. So the mid-block, when we go to it, can be 4-4-2. Lovely. Of course, then again, it's about the team being intense, playing on the front foot, trying to be aggressive, winning battles, working hard, all of that stuff. But I think the point is, I want to see United being aggressive. That's what I want. On the ball, how do we feel this lines up? Where can we hurt Leeds? And which players are likely to score the goals or cause a problem? Get in a chat and let me know what you think. I think Ineos just have to accept that Amorim was a failed project. Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. Ineos knew what they were getting when they signed Ruben. How is that a failed project when they set it up to themselves? Lol, Ineos is a failure too. I think Ineos have been a failure to an extent so far. Yeah, I think that's true. On the whole, you know, we knew what we were getting with Amorim. I personally sort of thought that I didn't think his perfect sporting idea could come to United and work in the Premier League. I was always a little bit concerned. We did some bits on Discord about, you know, that centre-back going into midfield. I was unsure of that. The press, I thought there were games where it could work, but others where it would look inconsistent, which, to an extent, I think we've seen, to be fair. So we were kind of right on that call. I just thought he'd adapt. I just thought he would adapt. I thought he would accept that what works for Sporting doesn't necessarily work with United. And he hasn't really made that adaptation, which is why some of what I said when he was appointed was wrong. I sort of anticipated him being smart and adjusting, and he hasn't done that. So I think that's where that comes in. The back five doesn't work with these players. It's a back three, and we all know that. Dallo and Dorgu and wingbacks. Say that again, sorry. The back five don't work with these players. It's a back three, and we all know that. Dallo and Dorgu and wingbacks. Dallo and Dorgu and wingbacks. Are you saying this is a back three, or when we play the back three, it turns into a five? Because when we play a back three, it's a back five. We saw that the other day. Go and watch my video from the game against Wolves. There's countless examples where it's literally a back five. Literally five across the back line. It doesn't matter about the start positions. They were here. They were across the pitch in a back five the other day. Yeah, well in, Chad. Love that from you, mate. We need a high line versus Calvert-Lewin and to resist giving them set pieces into the box. Yeah, I mean, Calvert-Lewin scares me. The second that team can go two strikers just scares me in football. I just think a two-striker system is scary to play against. It's difficult to play against. So that always scares me, particularly when we don't look the most... I pressed my back button on my mouse and I lost everything. Gutted. All right, let's get Leeds back in. Let's get Leeds back in. That team is going to be wrong, but hey-ho. Oh, I messed up, guys. I can't believe I've done this. I'm a disgrace. Oh, now United are in white. Oh, it's just a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. Can't believe I've done this. Okay, well, what were we on? We were on Sesko was up here. Cunha was here. Dorgu was over here. Look how many players were moving from the last game. Ugarte and Casemiro were here. This back line can come together if it'll let me. Yep, lovely. And then we had Mount. There's a yellow injury on here. Yellow injury on here. Okay. For Leeds, we've got to get rid of these two. And we've got to bring in Okafor and Calvert-Lewin and maybe Bogle as well. Can't believe I've done this. I'm a disgrace. I'm a fraud. Okay, but I think we're back to where we wanted to be. So, on the ball time. It's on the ball time. How would this work for United in possession? Oh, we've got to take Ampadu out as well. Ampadu's good. This is how many players Leeds are missing as well, by the way. You know, United are missing players, but so are Leeds. So are Leeds. We're good. We're back. I think this is the team's back to being close to correct. So, on the ball is the question. On the ball is the question. We know that Amorim likes to try and build with a back three, and I think in this game we'll need to. If Leeds are to play with a front two out of possession, United will probably need a back three in most situations. Because I'm just always of the opinion in this phase, I like to have one more than the opposition. I like to have that spare player that we can find. We had that against Wolves, and I think we can do that in this game. If we were to play, for example, with a back two, I fear that sometimes it's too easy just to pick up and apply pressure. So I'm happy for United to build in a back three this game. Would you have sort of Dalot tucking in from the right, going into that position? And then Dorgu's got to hold wider if Dalot's doing that. Are we looking at something like this? Is this what we're looking at? What do we think? I worry each time Ugarte comes on. Please sell him in the window. Yeah. I think he'll go eventually. I think he'll be gone by the end of 2026. What would you say is our weakness? Will Leeds have a low block? I'm actually not going to answer your question, Max, because I'm a horrible person. No, the reason I'm not going to answer your question is because I want to ask one back to you. I want to flip it. What would you say our strengths are? What would you say our strengths are? I'd like to hear in the chat what you think our strengths are. It'll be a short message. It'll be a short message. What is our bench like? I mean, yeah, I'm looking at the United bench now, and my players aren't there because of my little boo-boo, but it's not great. It's not great. We're looking at a lot of youngsters again. We're looking at Yoro being the experienced one. Is Cobby going to make it fit for the bench? Possibly. Xerxes will be on there as well, you would assume, if he's not in our 11. But yeah, it's another game where the bench is weak. It's very weak. Should have built with Cobby, not break him down. Play the players in a natural position. Yeah, bosh, just like that. If the opponent plays with two strikers, Amorim will theoretically defend with a line of 5. Ricardo, good morning. Yeah, that's what terrifies me. That's something I was saying earlier. I'm scared that he's going to go with the back 5, and that hurts me. Have you given up on Amorim then, AJ? I wanted Amorim out at the end of last season. That's when I sort of went, what we should do is just sort of go, it's not worked, it's not working, let's change and do something different. That's what I wanted us to do last summer. I wouldn't say I've completely lost all faith in him as a manager. I just think he has to change so much of his ideas, so much of his mindset. And since being at United, sort of the message that he has repeatedly given us is he's not going to. He's not going to. Now, the one thing he has done recently is occasionally change the shape. But we have to remember, shape is not everything. The thing that really needs to change is the philosophy. And the philosophy hasn't changed. The way that we play on the ball, the shape might be different, but sort of the way that the players play is the same. Off the ball, the shape can be different, but we're still passive. So he's got to change a lot, and I haven't seen evidence that he's going to change. That's what scares me. That's what scares me. We have zero strengths as a team. Long balls, maybe. Yeah, I think we are pretty good at long balls. I will say, I think we're good on the high press on goal kicks. That's when I think we're good. I like us in that moment. The second it's open play, we sort of fall apart a little bit. Players sometimes retreat back to their position over here or whatever. But typically, I think when a team play out from goal kicks, I think we're pretty good at pressing high. And I think we've got a lot of players who have the energy to play in that way. And I think the system is often good. It's just when it gets into open play, it just breaks down. The second that sort of extra pass is played, rather than continue to be aggressive, the instruction clearly is to drop off and protect. And that's when we become passive. So, yeah. And yeah, we're good at long balls. We're good at kicking the ball far and then jumping. It's cool. Will Mainu be fit? I don't know. I don't think he'll be fit to start. I wouldn't see him sort of come straight into the team. That would surprise me a little bit. So maybe he can be on the bench for this one. I'm wanting us to be a 2-3-4-1 in possession, but this is why I want Cobby in the 11, but he's so out of favour. Yeah, obviously injured at the moment as well, or injured, I don't know. A lot of theories that he's not injured. I'm going to assume he is. I'm going to give the manager the benefit of the doubt. Let's assume Cobby's injured. It's come at a bad time for him in terms of the Bruno situation. A very bad time. I also, by the way, as much as I may not like Amorim right now, I don't think he's going to go. I don't think he'll go this season. I think he's with us till the end of this season. And then in the summer, I wouldn't be surprised to see managerial change, but I don't think it will happen this season. I think it'd have to get really bad. I think we'd have to lose to Leeds, Burnley, go out the FA Cup, and lose another. I think we're talking 4 losses in a row, unacceptable losses for him to be under threat. I don't think he is. I don't think the. And he also got it in them to admit that they've got something wrong, and then change the manager. I don't think they'll do it. Am I wrong in saying Amorim's team attacked too fast? You're not wrong. Under Ten Hag, sometimes it felt like the players were jogging, but still advanced up the pitch relatively fast. Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons we lack control. Now, I understand why Amorim does it, because if you can attack fast, you can catch the opposition off guard, and United have got players that suits that. Bruno and Casemiro's passing range is great, and Bumo and Ahmad, their threat, it's great to play to them quickly, same with Sesko, same with Cunha. So I get why we do it. The problem is, right now, if you look at the squad with players missing, we lose all of that. So suddenly what we've done is we've lost the upside of playing fast. And when you lose the upside of playing fast, suddenly the downside becomes very obvious. And that's that you just don't sustain attacks. I think what the top teams do at the moment, and have done for a lot of years now, is they move together. You defend as a team, you attack as a team. That's very important. And when you play fast, sometimes it's difficult to do that. When you get the ball in this position and quickly ping it, it's difficult for everyone to get into position. It's difficult to get into your area you're meant to be. Which is why when United lose that ball, which is quite common, because these are difficult passes that we try, and we do try and move the ball quickly, which leads to errors sometimes. When we then lose it, we're sort of not set. The team isn't set. Sure, the forwards are high, that's lovely, but the rest of the team is still recovering from the attack we've just defended. They haven't got themselves back into position and back switched on. I think that's the problem with playing too fast. In those moments, we don't reset very well. That's the problem we've got. To be honest, I don't want Amorim here next season. No, me neither. I have no idea who I would want is the problem at the moment, but I don't want Amorim next year. Unless in the second half of the season, he shows that he can change. And I am all for that. If Amorim shows that he can change, not only the shape, but his idea, his philosophy, his intentions, keep him. I'd love him to do that. I'd love him to shut me up. I'd love Amorim to prove me completely wrong, to play good, fluid, advanced football. I'd love him to do that. And defensively, to be aggressive and press high, and to be a team that concede few and score a lot, that are difficult to play against. I'd love it. I hope Ruben Amorim does that. I hope he does that and then sticks his middle finger up at me. That'd be great. Sure. Didn't Amorim say that he realises that he has to adapt now before the Newcastle game? Was that just BS? Who knows? I've got to a point where I try to ignore what managers say, because I think they just waffle. I think they just say what they think people want to hear. Which I understand, because the media's always trying to sort of get them to say something wrong. So I almost try not to take too much from what the managers say in the media, unless they're praising certain individuals. I think it's interesting to see why they might have thought that. Why would you want Amorim out? I'm curious how Bruno would do as a manager. I could see him trying to go into it. I'd be interested to see sort of how that would play out. For Amorim to turn things around, he has to realise his current tactics suck. Yeah, and it's whether he does that or not. This is why for a while I've sort of said it's crunch time for Amorim. Got to admit it's not working, and that's fine. Some people think if he changes, that's accepting defeat. That's a failure of a manager. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. What a good manager does is recognises, okay, this isn't working. Let's switch up. Let's be adaptable. That's how good managers get there. That's how good managers get there, by going, this isn't working, let's change. So I think it'd be a strength for him to change, not a negative. Newcastle fans are kind of fed up with Howe, but I'd take him in a heartbeat. He's a manager I like a lot, Eddie Howe. I don't know sort of if he's that quite top-end manager, though. I don't know if he's ever going to win a league. We should be fourth right now. Chelsea and Liverpool both drew. We'd be level on points with Liverpool, but higher goal difference. It's Wolves. Yeah, the problem is there's so many of those games recently. And I think when there's so many of them, there's a deeper problem. If the Wolves was a one-off, it'd be a bit more understandable. But it's the fact, there was the Everton game against 10 men. There was West Ham at Old Trafford. There was Bournemouth, who have struggled to score all season away from home, and we gave them 4. when you're missing out on that many opportunities to gain points, there's an underlying problem. Fortunately, the league is weaker in places, stronger in places than the past, which makes it super competitive, which means we haven't sort of fallen off track. It's annoying because we should honestly be third in the league right now, but at least we are still there or thereabouts. All we have to do is make the adjustments that we need, and top 4 is so easy for us this season. Okay, not easy. So doable for us this season. Top 5 even more so. Top 7 should be a given. Should be a given. Watch the Premier League this season. Watch matches. Top 7 is very, very achievable in the league this campaign if you sort yourself out. That's the challenge in 2026, right? That's the challenge. The guys had one summer window. Give it time. I think time is earned in any job. In any job. Again, I'm not asking for us to win the Champions League. I'm not asking us to win the Premier League. I'm asking for the right ideas. That's what I'm asking for. Show me that in the second half of the season, the right ideas, and I'll back him. Sure. Execution can be terrible. We can lose every game. But if you can sort of see what he wants, you can see that the long-term future is there, like with Arteta at Arsenal when he was first there and losing a lot, but you could see what he was trying the whole time, and you could see that if he could get that to work, it was going to be top. We haven't seen that yet with Amorim, but I say yet because there's time to change. Time to change. The day I was Amorim out was going to Old Trafford for the first time and ending up depressed. That was West Ham, where Ugarte gets tackled in midfield just absolutely horrendously. I think we need to take into account we just drew to probably the worst team in Premier League history. Yeah. Let's make it clear. I don't want Amorim to be manager of Manchester United. I don't think he is the only problem at this football club. I think there's a lot of problems at this football club. But he is certainly one of them, and I would like that to change. But I'm also happy to be proven wrong. I would love him to turn it around. That's sort of where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Currently, I would like him to go. If he changes, he can stay. Simple. And I think that's fair to request from a manager who finished 15th last year. I think that's fair to say. We have to finish in the top 6 this season, and that is being generous. Yeah, and that's sort of the aim that we set at the start of the season. Fortunately, the way the table is going, and we have picked up some points, that's very doable. Very doable in the second half of the season. That's achievable for us. That's right there. If ideas are there, but execution isn't, we could blame players mostly. However, it's not necessarily the case. Exactly that. Exactly that. If the ideas were there, but we were just getting the detail off, you'd go, okay, so when we upscale in the summer with better players, I can see it immediately clicking. Right now, you could put like the best left centre back in the world there, the best middle centre back, the best right centre back in each position, and I'm still not sure it'd be incredible. And that's what concerns me. That's what concerns me. Which is why I think it needs to be tweaked. That's why it needs to be tweaked. Simple as that, really. How many players are out injured and at AFCON, though? How many are starters? Yeah, 7, 8, a lot of them. Which, again, is why we ask for idea, not performance. Listen to what I'm saying. I'm asking for the right ideas, the right signs. I'm not asking for something incredible. Simple as that, really. Also, Wolves were without 7 starters, just for what it's worth. The worst team in Premier League history. Went away from home. Without 7 players. 5, 6, 7 players, whatever it was. Come on. Come on. Rodri struggles in our pivot. Exactly. And I said something similar under Ten Hag as well, right? And that's why Ten Hag frustrated me. Because it's like, I think we could get almost the best player in each of these positions, and I'm still not sure it'd work. Which is why I think Ten Hag needed to go as well. Win the FA Cup and get top 5 or 6, would that save him? For me, it's purely dependent on the style that we do that with and the way that we play. But for Ineos, I think that would save him. Because I think they're a bit quite superficial with how they look at it. Who would you sign, AJ, to help us with the second half of the season? Maybe there'll be some videos on that, so maybe I'm not going to reveal in this particular stream. Maybe there will be some content covering that. You know how long it takes to build a proper squad? Arteta took almost 6 years to get Arsenal where they are, so AJ, take a chill pill and let's do the rebuild. If that is your take from what I have said, you're not quite listening to what I'm saying. Or you're not quite picking up the meaning of what I'm saying. Right? The signs have to be there. The signs have to be there. Why would you back something which has no signs. Wow, that's crazy to do that. Imagine pumping like 300 mil into an idea which has shown no signs of working. That's insane. We're talking £300 million. Why would you do that? That's insane to ask for that. Show us the signs, then do it. Sure. Show us the signs, throw the money at it, let's build. Sure. Show us the signs. That's what I want. Show us the signs. Around Boxing Day, I heard a rumour that United are going to re-sign McTominay. I would be quite surprised at that, but who knows? Who knows? Galatasaray have made an approach for Ugarte. They can have him. They can have him. 20 quid. We've been in a rebuild for the last 10 years. Very true. Very true. Spot on. I still think we just need one more good summer. For the squad to be... I think the squad is close, yeah. I think we are one summer away from having a very nice squad. You know, I think we are missing that proper... over here, left-sided attacker, and I think we're missing a couple of midfielders. Once we've got that, I think our squad will be incredible. I think it will be very high level and very balanced by the end of summer. That's where I'll leave that. That's where I'll leave that. We've had far better signs under every manager post-Fergie. AJ is right. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm right because, you know, I am wrong sometimes as well. But, yeah, you know, Ten Hag actually showed more signs than what Amorim did. Ten Hag actually earned the backing more than Amorim has. Same with Ollie. I don't know, Van Gaal, I'd say maybe not. Mourinho did. Showed more signs. Are you Bruno in or Bruno out? Bruno in. Bruno in. Although I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves. I wouldn't be surprised if he leaves. At Arsenal, there was visible improvement year by year with a clean plan, how they wanted to play and what they needed to reach the next level. Yeah, like even when Arsenal were terrible under Arteta, and at one point they were horrendously bad, like so laughably bad. I used to watch Arsenal and just laugh at them. But you could see under it, sort of, you could see that they were a team that were trying to be fluid. You could see that they were a team that were trying to press. You could see that they were trying to do those things. And that's what we haven't had yet. That's what we haven't had yet. Bruno in the 10. Yeah. That. Just need a midfielder and some players here and there. Yeah. Like I said, I think this squad is 3 players away from being top. Then we can assess him. I disagree with that part. I think if we're only 3 players away from being top, like a really good squad, then we should be better with what we've already got, because it can't be that far off. If it only needs 3 players to be a top, like one of the best squads, it can't be that far away right now. Right? Chad has summed it up perfectly, and I think I might use that comment to end the stream, because that is someone who has picked up exactly what I'm trying to say. Ideas versus performance. They're not the same thing. Even if we won the Wolves game, the idea that we would go into that game with negative tactics and worrying about our defensive shape is near unforgivable for a top team. Bish, bash, bosh. Chad, drop the mic on the way out. That is it. That is it. We could have won that game 3-0 with 3 set pieces, for example, and it would have been a great result. Sure, lovely. But you've got to look beyond that. Look beyond the results. Look deeper. Look beyond that. Look beyond that. And I think that's spot on. Spot on. So, I am going to end it there because, you know, he's just cooked. Just absolutely cooked. Chad, that is a beautiful way to leave it. Hopefully we beat Leeds this weekend. Hopefully. I think it's going to be a really difficult game. Really tricky. I think Leeds are a solid team. Their form recently has been pretty good. They're a tough team to play, tough to beat. Calvert-Lewin is on fire right now and he's a bit fresher than the rest of the team. I also think United are... I think we've got a bit of advantage here because we've got 2 days extra rest. We've had about 48 hours extra time. So, apparently, by the way, guys, Callum reckons if you leave a like on the stream, the like button turns into a football. That's pretty cool. You should try pressing that. Chad, not quite as cold. No, you got the wrong emoji, but I'll allow it. Yeah, what was I saying? Tricky game. We do have 2 extra days rest, which gives us an advantage. The energy levels for United should be better, but I also think the atmosphere at Ellen Road is going to give Leeds a boost as well. I think it's going to be a really fun game. I think it should be a lot of 50-50s, a lot of dueling, a lot of battling, and then an open game, which normally suits United. Normally I'd be quite confident for this. Because we're missing the sort of like the big guys, Mbumo, Ahmad, Bruno, for the quick moments, I'm a little bit worried. We lose a bit of quality there. But We need to see 3 points from United if possible, because we've got a chance to climb into the top 4, and we need to see the right ideas. The right ideas being, we are a team that wants to play on the front foot. We are a team that wants to be aggressive. We might get the execution wrong, but the idea is that United should want to be positive, and I'm hoping we're going to see that this weekend. Will we? I don't know. We're just going to have to find out in the next couple of days. But for today, there is nothing left to discuss. I think we've had a good conversation today. I've enjoyed the people that have listened and then given counterpoints. That's great. Love having those sort of conversations. I think it's good to have different ideas, good to challenge each other. The last thing that we need to do, thank you for reminding me, is predictions. We do need quick predictions in the chat, guys, so get them in now. Your goal scorers, what the score's going to be, who's going to grab them, all of that stuff. What sort of game is it going to be? Let me know in the chat. I'm always going to predict United win. 2-1 United win. Goals from, I'm going to say Mbumo then, which is probably quite unlikely. 2-1 United win. Cunha and Sesko and Calvert-Lewin. 2-1 United. Man United. Steve says 2-0 with the goals from Sesko and Cunha. Okay, we've both said those two scorers. I like that. 2-1 United. Size 6-1. Chad, one day. One day. One day, my friend. The sun shall shine on your predictions once again soon. 2-2, 1-2, 3-1. My scorers will be Cunha and Dorgu. That'd be quite cool. I'd like that. Steve, I like it. Pause. 2-1 to Leeds, says Corey. Callum says 2-1 to Manchester United. A brace from Cunha. And the Leeds keeper, Perry, being sent off. I'd like that. I'd enjoy that. 2-1 like the last 3 times. United 2-1. Sesko and Casemiro getting the goals. 2-1 home win, to be honest. Eesh. 2-1 United. Cunha scores and Sesko scores and Calvert-Lewin. I've got the same. Anyway, we're going to wrap up there. We are going to stop the stream there. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for the good conversation that we've seen in the chat today. Thank you to everyone who, like I said, has sort of listened to my point and then given their own point. And then I've listened to your point and given my own point. I like those conversations. It's, like I said, it's good that we disagree because it leads to better conversations. It challenges ideas, which I think is a great thing if we want to sort of keep developing the idea. So I have enjoyed that part of the conversation today. Thank you very much to everyone involved in that. Thank you to everyone who has liked, subscribed, and all of that stuff, and got their notifications on, and is in the Discord, linked in the description. You're all legends. Hopefully 2026 is going to be a better year for you guys, for Manchester United. Hopefully we're happy this year. Hopefully we're happy, and hopefully that starts with 3 points against Leeds, putting us probably in the top 5 and maybe in the top 4. Quickly ban Callum before we leave, and I shall see you all very soon for a video one day. I don't know exactly when, because this club's a bit uninspiring right now, but we're going to get 3 points.